feels to chew 5 gum.
Funny story, you remember your dog that famously likes to jump your fence and run out onto the mountain, and he's the same color as the rocks, so he blended into the hillside? All right, very, very quick sponsor time. So big shout out to Gun Prime. Obviously, guys, anything we do, especially when we're working with FRTs, is very ammo intensive. So Gun Prime is our sponsor for the ammo of this video. But massive shout out to Gun Prime. They're great guys. They're helping us out a lot. And if you need anything, you can figure it out from there. All right, hey guys, so this is a pretty impromptu one. I got some range time over the weekend and I was breaking in my new rifle and it has an FRT in it. I'm trying to be good and wear eye pro. I literally cannot see because of how humid it is. Like the entire optic was just a red blur. Oh! Dude, I'm proud of this right here, that double hit.
Yeah.
I can't get this credit card for the life of me. By this point in time, we all know what FRTs do. They're kind of the new, really big trendy thing, and for really good reason. However, all of the reviews I've seen out there about this product really only talk about the third position of this trigger, and all of these reviews can kind of be summarized by the statement of the trigger does the fun thing, so that means it is a good product. But the thing I was actually very curious about, and I have not really seen anybody talk about this, is if 95% of the time we are using our rifles in just normal standard operations, and I haven't seen anybody touch on that. And this might be a controversial statement, but if you're gonna drop the cash on an FRT, you should really value its performance as a normal trigger. Unless you're gonna build a meme gun, which is sick, or you're gonna do like one of those MCR uppers, which is also sick, you should heavily value the performance of an FRT in standard operation. I'm gonna reset. Doesn't count. It doesn't count if I don't finish. Okay, so how'd it do? So for my main points of comparison, I have a basically mil-spec trigger in my SIG Rattler, and then on the high end, my Spear LT came with the SIG Matchlight Duo trigger. The Matchlight Duo is a 2-stage trigger that has a little bit of a take-up, solid wall, and then a clean break around 4 pounds with a crisp reset. It's not the best trigger out there, but it's certainly better than average and much better than mil-spec. So between the low end of the mil-spec trigger in my Rattler and the Matchlight Duo trigger in my Spear LT, where does the Delta Team Tactical trigger fall in normal operation? Yep.
Okay, stand by. Up.
Good hits on the A, like always. I'm low on the headshot, which again, I'm 6'2", so like how tall is this guy?
It's probably
That's
like
Taylor
It's
height.
a Stewart simulator.
Yeah, it's more of a Stewart simulation here.
It's funny, I think no one believes I'm tall because all the guys I film with are taller than me. Because
No.
you're what, 6'5"?
I'm 6'7".
6'7".
You're 6'7"?
6'7", 300 pounds, pure sex appeal.
Absolute unit.
Wow.
My typical build drill times with any of the rifles or pistols that I own, and I'm saying pistols because ATF, thank you, tend to be about 1.4 to 1.6 seconds when I'm warmed up. I'm not the best shooter in the world, but 9.38. My holds weren't great until the last 3. Typically, those are all hits in the A zone, 1.4 or 1.6 seconds. I surprisingly found that with the Delta Team Tactical trigger, I was matching the high end of that. I was averaging split times between 1.3 and 1.4 seconds with the Delta Team Tactical trigger in standard operation. When measuring just the split time and not including the time it took for me to bring the rifle up from low ready to get a sight picture, my times were averaging at 0.8 seconds for 6 shots. As a test, when I switch it over to the FRT function, I got 1.56 seconds for 6 shots. So while yes, the forced reset mode is obviously much quicker, you can be pretty quick in normal operation with this trigger. So how does it feel to shoot? Well, it's not quite as simple as you would think. The Delta Team Tactical trigger, I wouldn't call it a 2-stage trigger, but it has quite a bit of inconsistent slack in the take-up for a single-stage trigger. We have a sometimes very seemingly inconsistent amount of take-up, and there's not really a noticeable wall before it breaks. When you're running drills at close range where you are going for speed, like bill drills, Mozambiques, things like that, it doesn't pose a huge problem. Now, the biggest thing that surprised me is that in normal operation, you can still feel that little nub at the top of the trigger pack resetting. This nub right here is what makes this trigger work. So, for instance, I cannot drop this trigger unless this nub is pushed forward. Yeah, so trigger, nothing. And then when the bolt is pushing forward on this nub, we get a break.
Engage.
I can kind of feel it even in like normal semi, like reset.
Yeah, the way it resets is a little odd.
Like it just feels different.
Well, the only thing I can think of is that the cam, which I'm assuming yours works like any other FRT, where there's something in there that grabs the bolt when it cycles in order to perform the motion.
Yep.
You may be feeling, even though it's not engaged, you may be feeling that cam as it contacts the bolt as it resets, even though it's not doing it.
I'm just gonna 2 on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, and shooter ready, stand by, and beep. It's not like crazy, but if you're used to a normal trigger, you notice it.
It's tough to put into words what this feels like, but under quicker strings of fire in semi-auto, you can actually feel the bolt cycling and resetting that nub while you're shooting. It adds a chugging feeling to the cycling pattern of your rifle, and that's, I think, the best way I can describe it. Is this a problem? Time will tell, but this is just not information that I have seen anyone else get out there into the world, because again, when everyone talks about these FRTs, they say, hey, it does the thing it's supposed to do, so it's a good product. Let's actually, I wanna look at the Delta team again, because I'm gonna cut these together. All right, so just to compare against the Rattler, see, I accidentally broke the trigger right there. I was searching for the mush, and I did not intend to drop the hammer. All right, so here we go. I can't find it. There it is, right there. Oh, and I accidentally broke it. That was accidental. Here we go again. There it is. That's that mush. And then we're gonna break it. And now let's reset. So here's the reset. Yeah, that reset is pretty mushy. I don't love that. Here, that is mush. And then it just kind of, I can't predict the break on this. So we have right there, that's kind of all we have to work with. Oh, and that was accidental, so I did not mean for that to happen. Here we go again. Right here. All right, that's the wall. And let's find that reset. All right, so here's the reset. Mush. Yeah, so that was all mush. There you go. And I just hit my finger, but who cares? This nub right here, you really, really feel this when the bolt is cycling, and you wouldn't expect to, but you absolutely feel this interfering with the normal operations of your rifle. Is it a big deal? No, I think it's something I'm gonna get used to, but is it something that you can feel when you're shooting quickly? Absolutely. So here we go. Right away, the Rattler trigger has a much more defined wall than the Delta Team FRT. There's hardly any take up at all on this trigger, but the wall is incredibly noticeable. So here's the wall, here's the break, and then let's go to reset. And again, this is a basically mil-spec trigger. As a normal trigger, this feels better than the Delta Team. So let's do this again. There's that take up. It's not good, but there's a clean wall, clean break, and let's see that reset. Super clean. That is a mil-spec trigger. Again, we're gonna look at the Spear LT, which this trigger in here is a much nicer trigger than anything we've looked at. So, super clean wall right away. There is no guesswork at all. That is the wall to the trigger. We're gonna break it. let's reset. And here's the reset. That is a clean wall. And let's break it. And here's the reset on the Spear LT. Really freaking crisp. All right, so here we go. Let's find that wall. There, yeah. So see, I can't, right there, I couldn't even find the wall. That's what I'm talking about, where it feels inconsistent. All right, so we're gonna try and find that wall again. There it is. All right, so there's that slight couple millimeters. And then there's a break, and it's a clean break, I'll give it that. There it is, and let's break it again. Mush. But that, again, that's what I'm saying, guys. The weird thing about this is, yeah, the front end of this trigger pull is really mushy. It seems randomly between 2 to 5 millimeters of mush. Like that was accidental. Here's the reset. Yeah, again, the reset is just pretty freaking mushy on that. Here we go. There's that mush. Feels like mush. All right, I think I'm at the wall. There's the wall, all right. Let's test this reset. Yeah, that's not a good reset. But once you reset and hold it there, that break is super clean. But it's just everything on the front end and back end is really mushy. There's a clean wall. And let's break it. Feels like mush. All right, I think I'm at the wall. And let's see that reset. And here's the reset on the Spear LT. Let's test this reset. This is really interesting because as I am testing these, the mil-spec trigger and the nicer trigger in the Spear LT, they're both better than the Delta Team FRT in terms of predictability and reset. What does all of that mean? Honestly, you just really need to learn how to work this FRT. If you are gonna run this in your main setup, as I currently am, I don't know if I will forever, you really need to practice with this thing. I am very curious how this is gonna do at long distance because of that little bit of unpredictability in the take up, especially in the reset. Yeah, it works great burning it down for drills at 15 yards, but most everything will if you work it quick enough. So yeah, the functionality I get out of the third position on that trigger, great, it does the job. Once you tune the rifle to work with it, it works and it works great, but that's not how I'm gonna be running it 95% of the time. So can you feasibly run the Delta Team Tactical trigger as a normal trigger? I would say yes, but also being completely transparent, there's probably gonna be a point where I call this whole experiment quits and just go with a Geisley.
Perfect run with a reload. I'm so bad at this.